down and get you their seats, please. You guys, are we live yet?
We're live.
Okay. Good evening. Today is Monday, June 28th, 2021. Welcome to this evening's regular meeting of the Oregon City Council. Let's begin tonight's meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council for attendance this evening?
Mr. Davish?
Here.
Mr. Horniak?
Here.
Mrs. Pollock?
Here.
Mr. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Seaman?
Here.
Mr. Wallensack?
Here.
Mr. Zale?
Thank you. Please note that all members of council are present this evening. Also joining us are Clerk of Council, Ms. Tina Evans, Mayor Michael Safarian, Law Director Melissa Papura, our Public Service Director, Mr. Paul Roman, Finance Director, Ms. Darlene Huntermark, Police Chief, Mr. Brandon Began, Assistant Chief, Mr. Ryan Spangler, Fire Chief, Mr. Denny Hartman, Assistant Chief, Mr. Mark Mullins. Thank you for attendance this evening. We do have a number of people signed in for persons and delegations. Mayor, do you want to go with the appointments first, or would you like to proceed with the regular meeting? Okay. We do have, like I said, we do have a number of people signed up to speak before us today, and we'll get started on that. First person signed in is Elizabeth Bushman. Elizabeth, if you would please step forward and please state your name and address for the record, please.
I've worked and lived in Oregon for 45 years now, and I'm all for growth here, business in Oregon. I know we need the revenue to continue services, but why can't you keep the industry in Oregon's industrial area? Why do you have to build in areas that have wetlands and trees? We need to do a better job to be good stewards to the beautiful earth God has given us. You say you maintain green space, and I know you do. You've planted trees with partnership with BP, but those trees, some of them have died and are still left there, and they're not maintained. I hope you can find a fair solution to have industry revenue to sustain city services and protect the environment. Our future generations' lives will be protected. And I just want to read a little quote of Dr. Seuss. And I'm leaving you with Dr. Seuss' book, The Lorax. It's the 50th anniversary this has come out. And he was recognizing and celebrating nature. Now that you're here, the word of the Lorax seems perfectly clear. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. Next on our list is Ms. Beth Ackerman. Ms. Ackerman, would you please step forward and state your name and address for the record, please?
Beth Ackerman, 931 Gary Road. I've got so much going on. I'll try to do this pretty quick. I would like to know, what is the Curtis Road interchange? It's in your minutes. Your previous meetings. I just wondered what that would refer you to. I know, I don't think this thing's on.
The light is red.
Screen
There you
now.
go.
Okay, sorry about
Okay,
that.
gotcha. Thank you. What is the Curtis Road interchange? Does anybody know what that is?
First time I heard that.
Off
Okay.
of 280?
No, there are a bunch of orange road work signs. They've been there for a while now. At Brown and
North.
from Lucky Farmers to through North Curtis. I didn't know if maybe, yeah. Well, it was something I read in one of your minutes, so I was curious what it was. Well, I was wondering if you guys could do an organizational chart, or if you have one on your website, and I just couldn't find it because a lot of people are confused about the hierarchy in Oregon, like who answers to who and who's in charge of what. And when I went online to see if we had one, I couldn't find one, but a lot of cities have them, and it just helps the public understand who answers to who, and, you know, what's the, who holds the power, basically.
Mr. President,
Yes.
Ms. Ackerman, that is something that I can email to you tomorrow.
Okay.
That is something that the city does have that I'm
Or
in
post it
possession
on
of.
the site, that'd be good for everybody, because if you would.
Mhm.
Thanks. Because everybody gets confused about the mayor, city manager, who, you know, the council, who they hire and who answers to who. I'll skip some of the, just my personal curiosity stuff. I would like to know will you continue to pursue the industrializing of any parcels east of Stadium Road to the eastern city limit?
Mayor?
President,
know.
you're talking, will we continue to try to seek options?
Yes,
Yes.
for industrial zoning. I mean, that would be
Well,
industrial.
well, that's a second step. But
Mhm.
would we try to see if we could achieve the possibility of getting options for the land? Yes.
Okay, thank you for your honesty. I just wanted to, you know, just make the statement that this whole issue is not over and will not be over until we receive all of the Freedom of Information Act materials that we've requested, and we have a chance to go over those, because I know a lot of people are of the opinion, well, they're not doing it. They're not going to do the industrial park. And I say, based on what? Well, they said they're not going to do it. And I said, oh, they're not going to do the battery plant that was actively searching for a place. But that's why I was asking for you to clarify, are you going to continue to look to turn Eastern Oregon into industrial area so that the citizens know that that's your intent? I just want to state also that our desire not to see the environment impacted in Eastern Oregon is not anti-job, anti-union, as some people are trying to turn it into. And there's been some actions taken throughout Lucas County that are, well, that'll all come out in the wash. I wanted to ask you, Mr. Safarian, you told me when I was asking you why you would be looking at our part of the city for industrial, what would ever prompt you to look there? And among other reasons, you said that a property owner approached us. Can you tell us who the property owner was?
To my recollection, I never said that. No one ever contacted me
Okay.
about
Because you
that.
repeated it to me and I made a note of it.
All right.
You said, you know, like basically like, this isn't our idea. A property owner approached us.
No. We were
Approached you, the
approached
city.
that would we be interested in pursuing some of these assembly plants in the
Mhm,
city, but no property owner approached me
mhm.
to ask
Or
if
this,
we were.
or any city official?
No,
Okay.
no one did.
All right.
No one. And if I can't imagine if my wife says I says things not very clearly to
Yeah.
her all the time.
Join the crowd.
But I would have never intended to say that, because of course that absolutely did not happen.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that we know, in case you guys want to reach out to the public, that this is not a dead issue in my book or in a lot of people's books. And we're not going to just sit back and trust that you're going to drop this issue. So just if you got somebody,
would
like I said, a
we would-
liaison would be great.
We would entertain, if we could have options
Mhm.
and see what we could appeal to, what type of businesses we could appeal to, then we could present it to the public hearing to say, could we make that work? A lot has been said about wetlands. What we had always done with that project when we thought people might, and that might get declared as a wetlands on the
You wanna see
Buchanan
the
property.
map?
Yeah, I
have
checked.
the
It's not
map.
registered now,
Oh,
but
it's federal wetland on there.
in which property?
On Buchanan's Woods and their stand of trees and Brian Cusion's and
Well, Brian
ours
Cusion's,
and Jolin's.
Brian Cusion's is out of the equation, but we believe that there's a
You'd be
possible
next to it.
roughly 10 acres that could be. And we believed that because of the acreage that some of these places were interested in, that they could avoid those.
You get 660 feet away from a nest, you're looking at being past.
All right,
South
but
and-
regardless,
and
it's
west
things
of
that we would
some-
have to look
Well,
at
I mean,
depending on the
you,
project.
you got a busy night, but long story short, you're gonna keep on pressing forward with trying to industrialize Eastern
I
Oregon.
didn't say that. I said we would pursue.
But you won't
the
say that
options.
you will not look at it for further industrialization.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to clarify so people understand what's going on.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. Next is Ruth Price. Ruth, would you like to step forward and please state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Ruth Price, 5255 Seaman Road. I have one question and then I'm going to make a presentation. Who is doing the planning for Oregon? Who specifically? Is it one person? Is it several people? Who plans what goes where in Oregon?
Like, give me an example. Like, what are you
Like
talking about?
down Route 2? Or if somebody
We
just says,
cumulatively,
I want to buy this piece of property, you just say, okay, you can put whatever you want there.
no, when the current zoning that's anywhere, anybody who purchases it could put whatever that zoning specifies. So if it's C2 or C5, which that's C2 or 5, depending on Navarre.
Starts
Yeah.
out as C2 then. sir.
it's turned to C5. So if it's currently is that zoning, they don't have to ask permission to build anything that C2 or C5 takes into account. So if they purchased it, they would need to go by the building code. But for that, the zoning speaks for itself. So when we did our town center, we worked for years to develop a plan. And I think pretty much every one of us up here, as well as others in the city, we all work together to try to come up with that plan.
Now I'm going to make my presentation.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, I've done a little bit of looking and from the expressway out to Lallendorf Road. There are exactly this many of these businesses I'm going to state. There's 5 car dealers. There's 13 fast food places, 6 gas stations, 15 banks. Some of these, like there's one at Walmart, there's one at Kroger's, but there are 15 banks, 6 gas stations. I said that, I'm sorry. 4 tire businesses, 2 auto parts, 2 pizza places. There's more restaurants, but they didn't come under the fast food classification. And then this isn't part of it, but on the corner of Star Avenue and Wheeling, just that corner, there's 3 pizza places and a Dollar General. Now, the Dollar General on Navarre Avenue is probably maybe a mile and a half, and then we have another one out by Curtis Road. So it seems like we're being overrun by Dollar General stores. Okay. And I've talked about this one before. Between the expressway and Wheeling, there are about 5 or 6 houses in there that I believe most of them are rentals that are in deplorable condition. I was here before, presented it. I don't know what you're going to do, but let me tell you, get off the expressway, you come east. This is what you're welcoming. Then now we have that beautiful blue building that is going to be a drug paraphernalia building. It was a nice brick building. Now, I know way back that there was an ordinance that if you were going to build on Navarre Avenue, it had to have a brick facade.
I'm gonna stop
I
you
don't,
there. One of 4 different building materials, and that would have been in new construction, which that building does not fall under those rules and regulations. We do not have a code we do not have a dress code for colors of buildings. So we couldn't have stopped them from painting that.
okay.
And
I'm
nor
speaking
can we,
now.
all right, I'm just wondering.
Okay, we have 2 big spots, had 2, now we only have 1 where Kmart was. My mother's been dead 13 years, or I'm sorry, since 2013, and she lived at Heilman's condos. They wanted to put a big box store on the corner where the ice cream place was, and Oregon turned them down. It was either going to be a Kohl's or I think it was going to be
Home
a
Depot.
Home
Target.
Depot. Home Depot.
That's not the impression that I got back then when I came to the meetings.
Well, then you were
Because-
incorrectly told.
Because
It was a Home Depot.
I came as a representative of her group because I was president of it. We do not have one shopping place in Oregon other than Walmart. We have nothing. We can buy a fast food sandwich and eat it or take it home. We can go to umpteen banks, but we can't buy any clothing, any kitchen things other than Walmart. Now there's the Kmart thing. Now that is big enough for a box store. Where Big Lots went into, that was originally owned by the Joseph Company. I don't know if they still are.
They still own it.
Okay. I don't know if any of you have been to Big Lots there. It's not much of a store. It certainly isn't an asset to Oregon. There's no reason why we couldn't have had a big box store there.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay,
Being that the owners were the Josephs and they were looking to find someone to lease that space, they tried as hard as they could, and the best they could come up with was the Dollar General. We do not get to pick and choose. We can appeal to some of the stores that you may like. That doesn't mean they'll come here. So we don't get to choose, nor does any other community. The market that they believe your community has, to whether they can get success in an investment here, is what demands whether or not they will come here. So
And
we don't get to choose.
then why
We don't get to plan. We
Why
don't-
was the big box store on Lawland or Route 2 turned down?
It was not turned down. It absolutely was not turned down. What happened was during that time when everything, the city voted to support that, the people that were here at the time. And at the planning commission, the mayor at that time put a condition on deliveries. Said deliveries couldn't be received between certain hours. And they said under that, with that restriction and what was happening with the economy at the time, they thought it was too big a risk and they decided not to build.
So you did put stipulations on it. Personally, you did
I
not.
did not, yeah.
But Oregon put stipulations
Yes,
on
the
it.
existing mayor at the time.
With all the semis that went through,
Mhm.
there's a credit union on the corner. I'm sure would not have interfered with the housing. I mean, it would have been far enough away. That's okay. One of the other things is somebody has to be responsible for the maintenance of Route 2. You go down there and there's some places that the grass is just terrible. There's a piece of property that just sold. I believe it's across from Red Wings, just in that area. It's an old house. And the weeds are like this, right up to the road. Now, if they're not going to cut the grass on the property, then why doesn't Oregon cut the grass between the sidewalk or whatever their property and the street? Another place that has always been an eyesore is Subway. Subway never mows, they never pull a weed. And there's other places, but it's just not acceptable. It needs to be addressed. And I'm just thinking, you say, well, we don't have an ordinance. Well, maybe you should make an ordinance. Maybe you should get off your butt and take a look at what we've got to offer here instead of an industrial park. And if you want an industrial park, go to the industrial park. Don't go to the residential farmlands. Beth has done a wonderful job representing all of us. Now, the other thing is, Mr. Reeves, 2 years ago, I came down because next to the fire station at the corner down here, there was a Mr. Jagger that wanted to make it into a bed and breakfast, and you and I got into words about the meaning of a bed and breakfast. It's a rooming house. It is not a bed and breakfast. He was going to clean it up. It was going to be special. If nothing else, it's worse. Mr. Reeves gave him a 6-month trial period. It was all set up for a meeting the end of October. I didn't know it. I came over. It was postponed to November. I was in Florida. And you passed it. He's got an indefinite zoning change there. It is not a bed and breakfast. It's a rooming house. And there's definitely a difference.
You want me to respond to that?
That's all I have to say.
You want me to respond to that, or?
Not really.
Thank you, Ms. Price. And Amy, you're the last one on our list. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Amy Massell. My address is 5929 Navarre Avenue. And did you want Elizabeth to go again since she wasn't recorded or on the record?
Do you
Our
think she'll
first
be picked
person.
up? Do you think Elizabeth will be picked up?
Oh, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I just have a question. In about a month ago, and it's kind of weird, I just moved back last September and I saw these blue squigglies on Route 2 next to our property. And it's got a blue squiggly and it says WL 16 feet with 2 little lines. What's that for?
Water line, you're saying, maybe?
I don't know.
Like a staking or?
Nope, it's
Is it
on Route 2.
Painted on the road?
Right, painted on the road. Actually, it was kind of funny because I just moved in. This is my first year being home and I teach. And I thought, uh-oh, people are starting to come to my house and decorate. But it wasn't a decoration. So what was surveyed on Route 2 that says WL 16 feet?
Well, I can tell you this, when, Mr. President.
Yeah, Mr. Romans.
I know when somebody's planning to do, utility companies all the time will do OOPS, it's underground, Ohio Underground Protection Service, OOPS. And they'll call and they'll ask us to mark our water line. So I'm assuming if it was blue paint, if it was blue,
Yeah, it's
right?
definitely
So yeah, so we would use blue paint for water, and we would write WL and by where it's located. So
So
if somebody
this-
called for OOPS, we would go out and mark it, but that's just the distribution department doing that as part of their job. That's all. I don't know of anything particular. We mark water lines throughout the entire city.
Well, it's interesting because there's this book called Watership Down where these rabbits are living and they don't realize the fear that they're under. But now I feel like I'm under that fear. Like I'm a rabbit hopping around on Route 2, living in my little lovely land where now there's birds migrating but I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of these blue lines. This is not how it should feel living out in the country. We shouldn't have to be doing doctorate level research on what is zoning, what is this land for, why do I have these markings? And in response to what Ruth said, guess what, Ruth? They worked on Route 2 today. They were weed whacking, and they stopped at the corner of Bury Road and made it look nice. Now, you guys might not know that, but now you do. So why wouldn't somebody contact me before they painted my road and made me scared about industry?
Well, first of all, Mr.
Excuse
President,
me, Amy, when did it get painted? Was
A
it?
month ago,
a month
right
ago?
after school was out, because I thought maybe I was getting attention from my sixth graders, but it
Oh, okay.
wasn't.
okay, well,
Paul.
let me say this, and I'll give you a longer answer. hopefully.
I mean, can you put me
Well,
at
Beth-
ease?
Beth had asked for an org chart, and I'm gonna tell you right now, what's better than that is the charter, the city charter. It is on the website. So if you go to codified ordinances, go to the charter and read it, because you'll get every one of our positions and what we do. Okay, so I'm the service director. I watch over all the public utilities, roads, drainage, you have the treatment plants. And when anybody does any work in the city and it's in the public right of way, they'll call that oops number, and nobody can dig until you go through oops and get things marked. But we mark things all the time, everywhere. If you built a house out to the east somewhere, your builder would have called oops to have the lines
Is
marked.
it
before you
oops
go.
or hoops?
Oops.
Oops.
Okay.
Ohio Underground Protection Service.
Okay.
So we mark lines all the time throughout the city. So I know you're seeing things like that, and it may make you nervous, but I'm just saying it could have been anything. It could be anybody it could be Edison planning to maintain a pole.
All right, I might turn embarrassed. My husband was gonna put some electric out to our pool, so maybe he.
Well, it could be
called
that.
oops.
Yeah, it could be that.
But I did
And
see
by the way,
oops
we don't want you to
lines
hit our
down the
water
street.
line. We don't want you to hit it. That's why we mark it.
There is no water. I didn't think out there because we have well water. But anyway, let
There's
me
a big
see.
water
There's a
line
truck
out there.
water.
There's
Oh,
a
do
truck
I have
line
water?
in road.
Okay. Since the 2 weeks ago meeting, I tried to explain to my relatives that I really was here about location, location, location. If you heard it once, you heard it twice. When you're buying a place to live, it's your location, you know. We moved back home because of its location. I'm closer to work. I'm out in the country. I can swim and my students aren't waving at me, because I'm out in the country. I was shocked and alarmed about the industry. What else is shocking and alarming is my mom lives in a new residence on Wind Park, and they didn't know anything about this beautiful fire station that's going up. And they were all like, whoa, yikes. I don't know. I want to know from that, from knowing their experience, like they were shocked and they found out the same way we were all finding out about the situation with industry. Where exactly can I watch for zone change information? Because I look through the Metro Press and I'm looking through your website. I need to find it. I need to know where you're going to post that. Because I want to know. And I want to tell my friends when zones are going to change.
Typically, when there's a zoning change or a meeting in concern with a special use, zoning change, you'll see a red and white sign posted on that property that it's very hard to read, and I understand that. But they post them that a public hearing is being held.
And that's it.
Yes, Mr. Roman.
And it's any zoning change is a two-step process. Always goes to the planning commission first. So that sign that Mr. Wallenczak mentioned is more for the immediate residents that are close by. Yep, it's a pain to go up and walk to the sign, but you can always call a planning commission and see what's going on for the agenda and so on. But planning commission then either recommends it or doesn't recommend it, and then it goes to city council, and then there's a hearing on it at council. So there's really it's a two-hearing process.
Council
So-
President,
Yes, Mr. Gilmore.
I just want to add to that, we notify by mail a 300-foot radius to all the property owners in a zoning change area.
So was that property that you're building your fire station on, which is a beautiful asset, nothing against it, but the humans that live across the street are retired residents for the most part, and they didn't receive any information.
Right.
Was there a zoning
Well,
change?
there wasn't, Council President.
Yes, Mr.
There,
Gilmore.
there was no zoning change needed for that. It's a use by right by the fire department to provide that service.
So what is that zone called then?
That zoning there, I believe, is R1, which is low density residential. I would have to double check to be
Alright.
sure.
Well, I asked my friends at my mom's place if they had any questions, and they were like, yeah, why don't you ask them about that fire station? You know? It's a quiet little place they've retired to behind, in a little quiet place, and that's what we're saying too. This is our quiet place, and you've put up the big I word, industry. And I'm used to living across from Lumbreezers, and it's got a nice hum to it, but I know it's for a season, and they haven't ever closed. I'm 54 years old. So yeah, they've been there for a long time. And you go out to your industry park over here, you have a lot of empty spaces. Don't come out here and disrupt wildlife, which we are all passionate about, just as you're as passionate about your industry. And that's all. I feel better about my squiggly lines, and I thank you for everything you do.
Thank you,
Mr.
Amy.
President,
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Yes, Ms. Pollock.
I just wanted to throw a little reminder out there. If you go to OregonOhio.org and when in your search engine, you look for Oregon, Ohio projects, it will take you right to the public service project information, and it gives you the list of the 2021 road improvement program, the sanitary rehabilitation, and it's in phase 5 right now, Part A, South Shore Park. All of those are on the website. And it can tell you exactly where they're at, what streets they're located, and it also gives you Navarre-Ocoy intersection improvements and where they're at that time.
Okay. And then just to reiterate, the people that are living in those like condominium places, they don't know how to search the internet. Like I search the internet and I try to find things. So I can go there and look. But you're representing them. So you need to get handwritten information to them.
No, they get notices when there's, because,
But
Yeah,
there was no
'cause he
zoning.
said-
so you can't-
But that
oh,
wasn't
for
a
zoning
zoning
change?
change,
Gotcha.
but they didn't know about the project. I mean, everybody's in their life doing their thing. And just,
Mr. Clerk.
just so you know that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
Totally
because I
understand.
can look, but
right.
my mom's freaks out if she can't log into her laptop because that means the banks have been hacked and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it's a different learning curve.
Thank
Mr.
you, Amy.
President.
Mayor?
Just a little speak on the fire station. We sometimes believe, just because we've been talking about that project for more than 3 years, that people are out there listening. And sometimes some people are, some people aren't. But we do believe we're proud of it. And there was a lot of strategic planning when you're going to service a whole city by a station. When you got railroad tracks you got to cross, and you got to be close proximity to a road like Route 2 so we can get to all ends of the city.
Right.
When it all said and done, it was probably the only location that existed that would best serve everybody in the community. So we were openly speaking about this for years, and we think people are listening. But if you come to most of our council meetings,
They're
sometimes there's 0 people here.
Right.
Sometimes there's 1. For years, we had 1 woman that
I
came.
was gonna say 2.
Yeah, 2.
So
Yeah, and then,
perhaps
so
maybe
we
I
do,
should-
we
yeah.
think, we try.
Okay.
Why do you think we put in this system, fairly elaborate, expensive system, that we can host this, all these meetings on
Oh,
on
live.
the internet?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because we're trying to keep things secret.
Okay. Maybe
That's
I
an
should,
illusion.
yeah.
That is an illusion. I mean, we
Maybe-
heard transparency was the buzzword. We post everything.
Yeah, maybe I
No
should
illusion.
suggest to their, like they have like a what is that called when you have a leader of your group?
Okay.
Coordinator.
Have them look.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
I should say, hey, could you start going to the board
Yep.
meeting, these,
Or-
city
Or
council
or
meetings,
at
just
least
so
we
you
make
learn
it-
stuff.
We try and make it as convenient as we can.
And Amy,
Alright.
we are live streaming meetings now, so they can watch them as,
It's hard to find live stream when you're 80.
I understand.
So,
We're
um,
trying.
But thank you. I know it's going to be a beautiful place. Maybe suggest that they invite those people over
We're gonna have open
for some
houses, I'm sure.
cupcakes or something. Sugar-free.
And we don't have the volunteer fire whistles and stuff. It's not gonna be real loud.
Okay, that's
Not
fine.
gonna be real loud.
They do joke that it'll be great if there is an emergency, boom, boom, they're there.
Thank you. Thank you. Ruth, yeah, come up to the podium, please.
I apologize for interrupting, but I had something written down here that I missed.
Yes.
I had a chance to be over to Harborview Saturday.
Mhm.
And my husband lived in Case Farms, which is right next door,
Okay.
for 23 years till we got married. And there's always been a smell over there. The smell was terrible. And I know when you have heavy industry, you're going to have that gasoline, whatever oil smell. And that really brought my attention, because I haven't been over there for a long time, about another industrial park.
Understand.
What are we going to do with, I know you're talking about a small battery thing or whatever.
It wasn't small. What it
Right.
was, what we were looking for, trying to be selective and being able to look what type of projects were coming, was an assembly plant versus something that created chemicals or something.
Yes.
We were not a manufacturing plant, but an assembly plant. So product comes in there and they put things together, which we
Once
thought
it-
would be lesser impact.
Once industrial park is zoned, it's always subject to change.
Anything is always subject to change, but
Right.
but when you zone it, we could specify
Mhm.
whatever project we had, which would come up during the public hearing. So that's why we're trying to have options. It gets thrown up all the time. Well, why don't you put it in your industrial park? You got plenty of open sites. The biggest possible industrial site we have in our industrial area, if we work real hard, we can assemble 80 acres. And that's a
How many?
80.
There's a spot for sale down there that's 135 acres, and they want $4,750,000.
And that's, I think the parcel you're talking about isn't even zoned industrial.
It's got an industrial sign. It's at the corner of Wynn
That's not industrial.
and
Cedar Point Road.
Cedar Point.
Wynn and Cedar Point.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not industrial property.
But that would be more of an industrial area than by Beth's Farm.
All right, but that's 100 and I believe it's 130 acres. Any of these projects were 265 and more, 265 acres or more.
Okay, but then why do we need more heavy industry in Oregon? I mean,
Because I explained the tax,
we're a small area and
Right.
we have so much already. We have the refinery up off of Route 2.
we're gonna be down we're gonna
we-
be down $3 to $4 million of net profits tax from the refineries for the next 5 years. So something has to replace that if you want to keep your same city services. And if we do nothing, everybody will say, why didn't you do something? So
Then
we're trying to
cut
have options.
services. Don't give us more industry.
Well,
Another,
who's gonna pay for it?
One-
Who's gonna pay for your service? Who's gonna make up the $4 million
The
we're
first-
short?
the first thing you always ask about is, well, what about your garbage?
Mhm.
That's a little teeny thing compared to everything else.
You know why I said
I
that?
have a question.
Ruth, your property tax that you pay, the amount the city of Oregon gets will not cover your garbage pickup. That's why I was talking about that. So every other service that you get comes from, guess what? Not your property tax. It comes from business and industry. And if we don't have the business and industry, we will not have continued city services that you currently enjoy. You want us to cut more grass? We'll be cutting a whole lot less grass. You want
Hey,
us to plow the
I
snow
live
better? We'll
next-
be plowing it
I
worse.
live next to a piece of Oregon property
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
For 27 years, I have cut that acre of grass.
Mhm.
27 years. Why can't somebody else go out and cut grass in front of their property on Route 2? Send them a notice.
Like I said, we're trying to cut.
Send them a
You
notice.
see all the city services that we do, and we run short some years with the money to do all our city services. Now we're gonna be down $3 to $4 million from the refineries. If they scale back because more electric cars come in and they're down 30%, you take the $3-4 million off from the net profits earnings, and you take another 2 or 3 million from each plant, we're now down $6 or $8 million. And you say we'll go develop our industrial site that has some 20 and 30 acre parcels that employ 150 people, and the 150 people for the payroll income tax that supports this city is about $1,000 a person. That's $150,000. We're still way short of the $4 million. We're
Well-
trying to get options. We assembled that land out there to hope that we could find something that isn't too invasive, that may employ 3,000 people. And 3,000 people, it is $3 million in proper or payroll income tax. It kind of comes back and delivers the money that the refineries aren't. And if you think people say we threaten that they'll shut down, they probably won't shut down. I pray to God they won't shut down, but they will do business differently than they have been in the past, and we're going to be short revenue from them. And if we don't pick it up somewhere, you can come and ask us to cut grass all over the place. We just won't be able to do it. We won't plow the
Fine.
streets like we currently do. We won't do a lot of things, but we're going to sit here and we'll try. We'll try to find something that may fit there. And if it don't go through, we'll try like hell to fill up our industrial park. And just because we got the land there, just like you said, we'll put in Kohl's, put in a Target. Well, we'd love to have one, but they aren't willing to come here. But I tell you what, if there were 3,000 jobs out there, the restaurants and the stores you want would more likely come. Because then they know the traffic of the people that live here and work here and pass by it would make their stores profitable. Right now, they look at the traffic, they look at the amount of residents that are within a 1, 3, and 5 mile radius, and it doesn't translate into a go for them. So we're trying. Yeah. Is it going to be tough? Is it going to change somebody's lifestyle?
There's a
It
lot of
could,
people.
but we didn't force anything down anybody's throat like we're accused of. We're trying to give options, because if we don't, we're going to be short money. And we'll continue. Yes, we'll continue to look at it, and we'll continue to. That's the only site in Oregon right there that has ample power, ample gas, ample water, and a rail service, and more than 200 acres. So
There are a lot
What-
of
what do we do?
people that
we sit
work
here
at
and
the
do nothing.
refineries.
We just got accused
do
by
not live
you
in
of
Oregon.
doing nothing.
They do
Doing
not live
nothing
in
on our
Oregon.
avenue. We sit on our ass here. So your exact words. So
Don't
we
be
do
rude.
not sit on our ass.
Don't be
Okay.
rude. I'd like one other thing.
Let's keep it nice, all right? Keep it civil.
I would like one other thing. I'd like to know the name of the people that said on the zoning change. I know
The Plan Commission
the
or the
plan.
BZA?
Well,
If
the
someone
Planning
goes,
Commission.
Plan Commission.
all right, who sits on it?
Scott Winkowski, Rick Orovitz, Yusuf Olive, Greg Verizlar, and myself.
I would call you being a conflict of interest. Thank you for letting me talk.
I'd like
Thank
to
you.
know what that is.
Again,
No.
if you read the city charter, we'll explain all that.
Mr. Seaman,
Yeah, go to city, go to the city website, under council, and you'll see codified ordinances. And one of the very first chapters of it, actually, here's the code right here. So one of the first chapters, it'll say city charter.
Click here to view and search through a complete set of codes in the city charter. I click on that, I hit a 404.
Okay, well, you should,
File a directory not found. I tried it multiple times, so maybe I'm not the most literate
Okay, well, again, this is the code book. The red tab is city charter. But
No,
if you ever want the
excuse-
hard copy.
no, Beth?
It's here.
Beth,
It's on the city website, and it is.
if,
Oh, my
hey, excuse me, Beth. I know on phone, sometimes the charter is so large, it may not come up on your phone. Yeah, so if you get to. So, it's step up to the podium.
Can I just
yes.
speak again?
Yes,
The problem is, we've looked at Windscape, Wind Road, and that area has been empty for over 20 years. Why hasn't it been developed into industries and everything?
We would love it to be, and we would love it be
Yeah,
developed,
so-
but people have to be willing to invest in the community and put the money. It's,
Right,
it's,
right.
it's our choice.
I
Yeah, we'd fill
understand.
it tomorrow.
But it's a
but-
dream, it's a dream to think that an industry is going to come in here and give 1,000 jobs. Now they're doing robots and computers.
They were
They're
locked
not-
in.
They're replacing people with those things.
But this was,
Automation now.
that was one of the things when they have requests, they said what they need in a site, and this is what we have to offer. They are bound to rules, you know, they're bound to what they said. They're gonna deliver
You've
so
got
many
a
jobs.
lot of land out there in the industrial area
What's
that's, that you can buy up yourselves, if that's
It
what you want to
doesn't,
do.
it doesn't exist. There's no 300 acre parcel there.
Hmm.
We would have, if we could have, we would have done it. You think I took pleasure in disrupting everybody out there? No, it wasn't. Why did I come to Beth's house and spend 4 hours there? Try to explain everything I could to her.
I think you got a lot of land sitting out there.
There is.
That you
It's
can
the
take-
only
that you can
parcel that
use.
existed in the city that would work for that project. Only project.
Well, they wanted rail too, Mike.
Yeah, it's right. I had it all.
thank you. All right. That ends the persons and delegations. We did have some items that were presented. Yes, sir? Please, step forward, yep. You name and address for the record, please.
Name is Paul J. Gibbs, 60 Taylor Road. I have some concerns. I was here last week at the other meeting, and there was a situation that arose that property was put up for sale on a website without the owner's permissions. And that was the wetland area, right? Is that correct?
I don't believe so. All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. And what Mr. Beasley said at the time, the foundation gave Ms. Briesler permission to put that up. Now, let me hear an explanation for that today.
When we first sought out a site that had that, we're looking at trying to find 400 acres, those 8 parcels came up. There was a map that showed those 8 parcels. The Oregon Economic Development Foundation knew that parcel, that map, and they work in coordination or in harmony with the RGP, Regional Growth Partnership. And I believe it showed up on, is that when they're going to site selectors that are looking for places to land a business, they were saying, this is a possible site. It didn't say that they're selling it. It didn't say they're marketing it. It said, this is the possible site that we would go to.
The site that says my parcel number, Brian's parcel number, Rudy's parcel number, the site that puts a, build here right on our particular parcel, and it cites every specific down to the easily mitigated wetland and.
All those are public documents that anybody can look up. And we found that.
Availability, $30,000 an acre. So, but it's not for sale. Dude, you guys owe me an apology, and you owe Brian Cusion's family one. This, I don't know who Summer Briesler answers to, but this whole like brush this under the rug, this is a gross abuse of your power. This is neglect of your citizenry. And
Pretty
you're trying to blow this guy off. He's just trying to get some accountability here. I tried to get along with you guys, but you just lie. It's just getting so discouraging.
Mr. Gibbs.
Pretty
transparent though.
Okay, is
Mr.
it my
Gibbs.
understanding that this has been resolved And that won't ever
That-
happen
yeah,
again?
that-
Property won't be put out there that's not available?
Well, Paul, I ultimately am responsible for things that go down in the city of Oregon. That was a different entity. We contacted them during the meeting. Mr. Beasley contacted them and they took that down. But I would like to believe we made good strides with them, but to control what your neighbors do is not always, you don't have that power. We tried, we tried. Once again, there's nothing in it for us to make people angrier. We were trying, like, and you said before, we had the object word of transparency, thrown our way all the time. That's pretty darn transparent when it's posted up where you said anybody could see that what we were seeking. So there was no secrets going on here. If there was something that somebody believed were lies, maybe if they came from me, maybe I didn't do a good job of explaining it. Maybe somebody did a job of understanding. I did not deny anything. I did not deny that we would still try to assemble land with options. And if we could find a right fit, we would try to entertain the possibility of fitting something in to suit the needs of the city.
I
And
understand that.
we'll try to do that. And we'll try to do it as open manner. The only time I wanted a little time was so I could personally contact those people so they knew it was coming. And I was looking at a couple days. If I could have done it all in one day, I would have done it. Because I just want somebody else to hear, oh, you didn't even bother to talk to me yet. I had to hear it from my neighbor. I just wanted them to hear it. Hear it
I'm
from me.
glad it was brought to light.
Yeah.
I'm glad everybody understands it now,
Mhm.
somewhat, and that it's not gonna happen again.
Well,
Right?
yeah, we'll always try. And if we do something wrong, we'll try better the next time.
Okay, now I gotta move on to one other thing. Okay. Concerning that property and the property owner out there, a member of city council told the person to take the money. Now, I think whoever that was, they need to apologize to that person in public. Now, if they're here. Is that person here?
Yeah, yes, all council members are present, and I would leave it up to that individual person to handle it the way that they choose.
Pardon?
I would leave it up to that individual to take care of it himself.
Okay.
Mr. Seaman?
I mean, it's all been said in public, so let's bring it to light and deal with it.
I was just trying to start a conversation. And what,
weren't supposed to know anything about it. All the council people said it didn't exist and it wasn't a real thing and nothing was happening. And yet you knew enough to say, hey, take the money, take the money.
Yeah.
How do you have the insight on it when the other council people don't?
well, I was up here when there was a meeting taking place. I think I saw you up in the hallway here.
So that was my husband.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Yeah, and I just found out when I came up to do some of my routine work and go over my notes and all the information, I saw people at the meeting in the conference room right here. And then that's how I found out. They didn't intend to tell me, and my intentions were not negative or anything like that.
On May 15th, you asked me, you said to me twice, take the money, just take the money.
At the,
That was well before we met.
yeah. It's kind of like, I guess it's just a way of starting a conversation. It's not, I mean, it's just, you know me, and sometimes I say that, maybe it was wrong though, to say that, but, it's a way to start a conversation. I like talking to you. What?
It came across very coercive.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to, my intentions were definitely not that. But I know I might have said something inappropriately, but I mean, my intentions were not to be coercive. They really weren't.
Just take the money.
But I know, but I think I was like smiling, but I was not trying to be coercive. That's the truth.
You just been at this way too many years to give up on something like that.
Well, that's true. That's
true. He's been hooped up a lot of years, so.
1989.
yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
That's what I
But-
want on a council.
No. Okay, let's stay focused on Mr. Gibbs and his,
Mr. Seaman, if I might speak. Mr. Seaman, if I might speak, instead of explaining it away, are you apologizing to her?
Yeah, I'll apologize to Beth.
Okay,
I like Beth, I'll apologize.
I can accept that.
I will apologize.
Can you, Beth?
You're asking me about his sincerity?
Well,
No,
no, I'm
no,
asking
that-
if you can accept his
if
public
My
apology.
intentions,
Thank you.
no, you don't, yeah, thank you.
The reason I'm saying this is things that go on, I mean, we're from the east side, right? We've seen a lot of things over our lifetime. We've seen thugs, okay? And when I hear something like that, take the money, sounds like a thug, not somebody
Yeah,
that's in
it
public
does, yeah.
office, you know?
It could, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying this, and it's, there's no place for it in public government.
I agree.
Well,
thank,
that's it for me.
thank you, Mr. Gibbs.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the rest of the meeting. Again, we did have a number of items that were discussed. Mayor, do you want to go with the appointments before we get into the regular meeting of council?
Yes, in council, you see the fire department personnel issues that are before us. Chief Hartman is here. He's going to make a presentation, and if you're comfortable with making this appointment today, we'll go forward. If you want more time, we would then maybe ask for a special meeting on July 6th, which I believe is Tuesday, which I know is Tuesday, and make the appointments then, if depending on what happens in this conversation and what he's able to tell you, it'll be your call. And I think I told Mr. Zale, Chairman of the Safety Committee, after hearing what is said, we'll leave it up to him to decide whether to go forward tonight or come back on Tuesday the 6th.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Hartman?
Mr. President, Council, I apologize. There was apparently a procedural error. I misunderstood. We talked about this last Thursday. You should have got this in front of you last Thursday, and there was a revision that needed made, and we didn't get, obviously, you did not get this till tonight. So I would go through, this is obviously, we've been talking for quite a while about the Battalion Chief's job. We said you sometime back passed a classification for the job. We went through the entire process of selection. And so what you have before you is the appointment letter, basically an appointment letter for what the position says. The first line of it is asking you to appoint them tonight for the starting date of July 12th. There was one change on Mr. Romstad's. He has a step 3, but that should be step 2. So all the battalion chiefs will start at step 2. And I don't have that in front of me. I don't remember exactly what that is, but if you decide to go forward with this, obviously the mayor can announce that. The next things just go through the different benefit packages, et cetera. There's a different it's a different situation. It was a little different for finance to understand as well, because we are doing, this is a new shift, a 24-hour on, 72-hour off, which we have not had in the city before. And so there was some discussion that needed to be done with finance and payroll, et cetera, to get that proper, so that the understanding of one compensation can be used, one days off can be used, et cetera. So throughout those things, I guess I would ask you to go through it. If you have any questions about any of the items, I would be more than happy to answer those questions for you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Zale?
I took kind of an impromptu poll of council before the meeting to see if they felt comfortable enough about going through with this tonight, and most did not.
Okay.
They would like to review it, but I do understand.
Yes.
It's easy to understand if you've ever
Yes.
seen contracts before, but
Right.
I mean, I assume that the administration was very happy with these parameters and the,
Yes, yeah, that's what, again, we had meeting with Mr. Beasley and Darlin and Sue from payroll. I think we got everything worked out. She has for a couple revisions, got that taken care of. But obviously, you should have got it before this. So if we can have the meeting and give you an opportunity to look this over, contact me, contact Mike or Darlin or anybody that concerning these things. And then we can still get them appointed for their start date of the 12th. Other than giving them a call and having them understand that, hey, you weren't appointed tonight, we'll get you appointed next week, or that would, I have no objections to that.
okay, let me, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
The only thing really in this is, if council goes through this, you would understand what their rate of pay is, what benefits that they're going to receive. And this is something that's already been, I don't want to, kind of negotiated, correct? It's not union. But I mean, this is
Collectively
something that's,
bargained.
it's been done. I mean, the only thing that the rest of the council members would question is, do you like the benefits that they're receiving in taking this position? So we could do this tonight, but if you don't feel comfortable with it, we can put it off.
Just a quick straw. Steve, do you have a question? I saw you're.
I do.
Okay,
I
Mr.
actually have a
Horniak.
few. I don't know if you want to do a straw poll about.
Yeah, I was going to
preference or
say
considering
straw
if you wanna
poll.
do that first.
What do you guys feel? Do you want to go forward with this, or you want 2 weeks? Marvin's saying go forward. Kathy, forward. Steve,
I do have a few questions, so as long as we
Okay,
have that
as long as we-
opportunity tonight,
okay.
I'd be comfortable.
Terry, Tim.
At this point, I'm for going forward.
Okay, we have more. We have council members. Majority want to go forward. So, Mr. Horniak, if you have some questions, go ahead.
I do, Chief, and thank you for the information and I appreciate shedding a little light on that. So in consideration what we have before us today, potentially as mayoral appointees in through our fire service this evening, can you talk a little bit about the organization and the structure of what this would be? So, I do see, I believe, 4 individuals from the Battalion Chiefs side. I see some other folks that we're looking at this evening for full-time positions. Can you talk a little bit about what, I'll say, starting on July 12th, the shape and form of our fire department?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. What we have through our negotiations with both collective bargaining agreements, we went through a process on how the selection would occur. What we're going to have is we will have 50. And we also have the classification for firefighter 1. So we have a firefighter 2 classification and firefighter 1. Firefighter 2 classification it would be for the paramedic firefighters. Firefighter 1 is for the firefighter EMT classification. The battalion chief classification will be the immediate supervisor of the operation, a daily supervisor. One of the things that to me really stands out as a need of the department was to have daily supervision. In our prior organization, before these changes that we're going to make, the leadership came from the part-time side. So if you don't have a officer on one of the runs, there's no, the full-time people there was no designated supervisor. We are the supervision, but we're a 40-hour week. So Saturdays, Sundays, et cetera, there's no supervision, and there's just a lot of decisions that need to be made throughout a day with the number of runs and the splitting of the crews and those kind of things that have to be made. So that's what they will offer, the immediate supervision. There'll be one of them on duty, one battalion chief on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll have 15 when it's all said and done. We just hired the 2 firefighter 2s, which puts us 15 full-time firefighter 2s. We're also, tonight, we're proposing hiring 6 firefighter 1s. So that is 2 for every shift. So there's 5 firefighter 2s per shift, 2 firefighter ones per shift, and a battalion chief per shift. So full-time staff will be 8 people a day. The part-time union has 2 spots a day where they fill with their part-time membership. So they're 24/7, 365 spots every day that they will be on duty. And that is all theirs for their membership to fill. So
Chief
on a
Hartley,
good day, yes, go ahead.
Would those be in like a 6-hour shift that they would be signing up for?
The part-timers are in 6-hour shifts. That's their contract. They decided on a 6-hour shift. But it's not unusual for them to work 12, 18, and even 24-hour shifts.
Okay, thank you.
So
Just clarification. So
yeah.
from the part-time organization, they would basically be fulfilling 2 FTEs, full-time equivalents
yes,
per day.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Also, we'll have what we call general alarms, where we will, the part-timers or, what people may say the volunteers, but the part-timers will be dispatched for structure fires, industrial accidents, water rescues. I'm trying to think of all the things things like that require a number of people. That will have more people than we have availability. One thing about this city, it's not unusual that where there's times we'll have no runs for 4 hours, and then we have 4 within 2 minutes. And so when we have that situation, we may be in a situation where we simply don't have enough money or enough people on staff, and we'll call the part-timers in on what we're calling a general alarm. So on the best day, we'll have 10 people on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Obviously there's vacation, sick time, those kind of things. So we'll always have between 8 to 10, 7 to 10 people here all the time. Obviously right now we don't have a place for 7 people to be here all night. So we have upgraded, if you want to call that, in a very old station, Station 42 or Station 2 up on Wheeling, where we have 10, we've made 5 rooms with beds and nightstands, those kind of things, a place for privacy for changing. We have a shower, those kind of things. So we'll have a split crew. We'll have some crews, on a day where we have 10, we'll have 5 people at Station 42 and 5 people at Station 41. And they will respond based on, what district the call's in and what type of call it is. And so, for example, when they're split like that, if there's a fire call in Station 42's district, that crew will take a fire engine and go to the fire. The crew from 41 will bring a medic unit. They will once they're on scene, they'll marry up into an engine crew, and we can start the firefight. And just the opposite when it's in 41 or 43. And then once we have the central station, then we'll assign engine crews and those kind of things. But what the crews will do when they're split like this, obviously when there's an EMS call, they'll take an EMS vehicle and the fires will go like that. So, and then the battalion chief will make decisions on when, if we need to call more people in and those kind of things. They'll do scheduling, who's going to be at what station, all those kind of things, and what the daily staffing is, what the drill of the day is, and all those kind of things.
So just a follow-up question to that, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
So based on the timing of when these appointments are set to begin, is it your intention that the structure that you just kind of explained in detail would start to take place on July 12th?
On July 12th, what our plan is to get all 4 battalion chiefs here. I have an orientation week. We want to get them in the refineries, and get them familiar with the refineries, make sure they understand all the hot spots in the city. We have one thing I always like to tell everybody: we have a lot of things that can go boom in this city, and so we want to make sure that they get around there. We want to get them in the hospitals, meet those people, those kind of things. So we're gonna have orientation with them first week. The second week, or when the firefighter ones get there, We do have a couple firefighter ones that need a firefighter two, or well, firefighter one and firefighter two are actually state certifications as well. So our firefighter one and firefighter two classifications you'll see are the number one and the number two. State certifications are firefighter one, Roman numeral one, and firefighter Roman numeral two, and I don't want to get everybody confused. But to be a full-time firefighter, you have to have a firefighter two card. We have a couple of our people that have a firefighter one card that we have to get to firefighter two. So we're going to have our first 2 weeks. We're going to do a fire academy. We're going to take all the new hires in there. We're going to give them, here's a way we're going to operate in Oregon. We'll get them through there. We'll get them their certifications. And so looking at actually the first week in August that we'll be up and running in the new model.
So you'll have a 2-week academy.
Yes, yes. And the battalion chiefs will be a part of that training.
And then automatically, do they get their certification at 2, or is there a state test that they have
They
to
have to take a
pass?
state, yes, they have to take a state test and pass the
And then
state
what's our
test.
provisions if they do not pass the state test?
They have 3 attempts to pass it per the state. And then they can be, we can have some additional training and they can take 3 more tries. Should they not pass that, that they would not be able to make it out of the probationary period. So, because it is a requirement, that is a state law that they have to have that.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Horniak.
Again, follow-up question for you, Chief Hartman, if I may. So on or about the first week of August, we would have the 4 battalion chiefs, one of which on duty at any given time,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
We would have potentially 6 full-time firefighters on duty at any time.
yes.
And then 2.
Potentially
additional-
7 full-time. So it'd
Okay.
be 5, because there's 5 paramedics a shift and 2 EMTs per shift. And then also the battalion chief. So,
Okay, and then we would have the 2 part-time
yes,
individuals that would
Yes.
operate within that. The volunteer fire department is now playing what role within this organization
they will.
as this structure goes?
Right. They have those 2 shifts that they cover every day. And then they have that's the general alarm that I was discussing, where they will be, should there be they'll come in on structured fires, any amount, if the system is overwhelmed and we need additional help, water rescues, industrial accidents, those kind of things. They'll still carry pagers. We'll send out tones. Right now, we send out tones for the part-timers for every call. And we're just in an unfortunate situation where we often are calling 2 or 3 stations to get the response. And it's unfortunate. It's time to
Chief Hartman?
do this. Yes.
On the part-time staff, the paid part-time, that it will fill the 2 positions on our shift. Is there additional training that they have to that's required by them to meet their qualifications, or are they fully qualified at this point?
Everybody that's currently on the part-time staff that is qualified to work the shifts have the qualifications required of a part-time
Thank you.
firefighter. Yes.
And just one last question, if I may, Chief. Expected completion of the new station where we would centralize all these people into one location is approximately when?
What they're telling us is a year. Expect a year after
The start
signing.
of construction?
Yes, after the start of construction. So,
And when do we anticipate start of construction?
we opened bids the 8th. Our architect thinks they'll be ready to go relatively quickly. So we're hoping August, end of August, early September to get it underway. We know, we already anticipate that, we know that, we have engineered steel. Much of our building is engineered steel. And we know that is, the lead time for that is way pushed back. But there's lots and lots to do. There's all the foundation work. There's all the civil engineering, all those kind of things. They can build the brick walls. They can build the tornado shelter. They can do that kind of stuff. And then when the steel gets here, they can erect that very quickly. So it's not dependent on the steel being here first. They can there's boy, there's a lot of concrete work to do. So there's plenty of things to do, still in good weather. So.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Council members, yes, Mr. Seaman.
Yeah, thank you. How many of our part-time firefighters became full-time firefighters?
We are proposing 3 today. 3 of them, yes. 3 of the 6.
And then the other part-timers, how many won't have have a role, so to speak? When you look across all the part-timers we have, will not participate anymore.
There are people that are, that are simply not interested in participating in taking shifts. And so their run volume will certainly reduce. Whereas we're expecting, it's without ever doing it, we don't have the critical data, but I don't expect more than 1 or 2 general alarms a day, where right now there's 10 to 12 alarms that they have the ability to respond to. That's going to be significantly cut down. So the people that have no interest in working a shift, it will significantly reduce their time to.
So we expect our response time to be much more favorable under this new system, right, Chief?
Absolutely, absolutely. We expect people to be on the road in 2 minutes. We expect equipment to be on the road in 2 minutes for every call.
And generally, what is it now, Chief?
Well, because we have kind of we do have some staff.
Hybrid, yeah.
So if you look at the actual numbers, we're getting that done for most of the calls, but where we get in trouble is a second call. Like if our life squad isn't dispatched and our on-duty crews are dispatched, the second or third call, it's unfortunate. We have some very long response times if we have a second or third call. We actually have had to use some mutual aid for some of it.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes, Mr. Seaman.
Thank you. When we have the second or thirds, though, we'll be well covered now under this?
We are with 8 people here, we certainly can cover, we'll have far less open spots, far less. Anybody in a city this size, there can be a situation where, it gets, and that's where we have to count on our neighbors. Right now, we're not reciprocating as well as we should. With this, we'll be able to reciprocate, so I won't feel so bad about calling somebody else in. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Council, is there any further questions for the administration? Mayor, no further questions.
Go forward.
Yeah.
Okay, in council, as long as we're making appointments, I'm gonna go through all of them that we have here, and you got the correspondence from the other ones, but I'm gonna start with the resignation request from Alex Schultz, who has been our IT person in the city and as well as working in the inspection department. And Alex is moving on with his girlfriend to New York. And it's been a pleasure to have Alex around here. He's really added some spirit to the city, and we got a lot of things done through our IT department with him here. And so I'd ask council's concurrence in the acceptance of Alex Schultz's resignation effective July 23rd, 2021.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President?
Mr. Seaman.
Yeah, I agree with the mayor. He added a lot of spirit to our team out here, but I'll move to concur with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the acceptance of the resignation of Alex Schultz.
And then I will go to the fire department, and we'll start with, and each of these are effective July 19th. Is that correct? Correct. Firefighter ones.
Yes.
Each of these,
19th.
and I think there's 6 of them,
Yes.
are going to be the effective start date, July 19th, 2021. And And I'd ask council's concurrence in the appointment of Mr. Greg Duncan, 5835 Willilacker Drive, Oregon, Ohio, to the position of firefighter 1, step 1, $19.93 an hour. And I once again would ask council's concurrence in the appointment of Greg Duncan, firefighter 1.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the mayor on Craig Duncan as a firefighter 1.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. Council, any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Craig Duncan as firefighter 1.
Thank you, council. The next position, once again, same position, same appointment date, July 19th, and ask for the council's concurrence in the appointment of Mr. Jeffrey Ellis, 5048 Bayshore Road, Oregon, Ohio, firefighter 1, step 1, $19.93 an hour, and ask council's concurrence in Jeff Ellis's appointment.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the mayor on the appointment of Jeffrey Ellis for firefighter 1.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. Council, any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Jeffrey Ellis to firefighter 1.
And July 19th, I would ask council's concurrence with the appointment of Mr. Blake Heilman, 1891 North Genoa Clay Center Road. Step firefighter 1, step 1, $19.93 an hour. And I'd ask council concurrence in the appointment. Once again, Blake Heilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
Move to concur with the mayor on the appointment of Blake Heilman as firefighter 1 position.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. Council, is there any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Blake Heilman for firefighter 1.
And then, once again, July 19th, I'd ask council concurrence in the appointment of Mr. Dustin Eiler, 1535 Piper Drive, Oregon, Ohio, firefighter 1, step 1, $19.93 an hour. Council's concurrence.
Thank you, Mayor.
Eiler.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the mayor on the appointment of Dustin Eiler as firefighter 1.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. Council, is there any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Dustin Eiler to firefighter level 1.
Next, the appointment of Mr. Antonio Salinas, 1811 Ottawa Road, Genoa, Ohio, firefighter 1, step 1, 1993, July 19th start date. Ask council's concurrence.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I would concur with the mayor on the appointment of Antonio Salinas as a firefighter 1.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. Council, is there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Antonio Salinas to firefighter level 1.
And the last one, as firefighter 1, Mr. Robert Zunk, 17936 West Moline Martin Road. Firefighter 1, step 1, $19.93 an hour, July 19th.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council's
Council.
concurrence.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the mayor on the appointment of Robert Zunk as firefighter 1.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauls. Council, is there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Robert Zunk to firefighter level 1.
Now we'll go on to these battalion chiefs, and I'm going to start with Tim Rumstadt. And with that correction that if you go down to line 1, or where it says section 1, where it says step 3, you're going to change that to step 2 with an hourly rate of $31.88 an hour, annual salary $79,572.48. And startup date is the 12th.
The 12th, yes.
All right. So, and each of these 4 will have the same startup date, and which will be July 12th. And I would ask council's concurrence in the appointment to the position of battalion chief, Tim Rumstadt, and ask council's concurrence to appoint Tim Rumstadt to battalion chief effective July 12th.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the mayor on the appointment of Tim Romstad as a full-time battalion chief.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, is there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, Council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Tim Rumstadt to Battalion Chief.
Next, Matthew R. Dillon, 3425 Sugar Creek Drive, Lima, Ohio. And once again, he's at step 2, 3188 an hour, 79,572.48. Ask council's concurrence. Dillon.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yes, Mr. Zale. Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, is there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mayor, Council concurs with the appointment of Matthew R. Dillon to Battalion Chief.
Next, once again, full-time battalion chief, Christopher Huffman, 2225 Whitechapel Drive, Toledo, Ohio. Battalion chief, step 2, 3188, 79,572.48. Ask council's concurrence.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yes, Mr. Zale. Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, is there any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, Council concurs with the appointment of Christopher Huffman as Battalion Chief.
And the last battalion, full-time chief, Jason Beckett, 3505 Madison Graceway, Franklin, Ohio. Position of battalion chief, start up date the 12th of July, 3188. Step 2, 79,572.48. Council's concurrence.
Thank you, Mayor. Council. Yes, Mr. Zale. Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, is there any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, Council concurs with the appointment of Mr. Jason Beckett as Battalion Chief.
And I have one more appointment from the police department. Or would you rather do that in a few months? Didn't even hear it. Didn't even hear it. Yeah. No, I'd ask council's concurrence. Being that Ryan Spangler is now our sitting assistant chief, it left a position of sergeant open in the police department. And I'm going to ask council's concurrence in the promotion of Patrolman Brett Smith to police sergeant, which is step 1, FOP 77,787.06, hourly rate 37.3976 an hour, and the effective date is July 6th, 2021. And I would ask council's concurrence in the appointment to Sergeant to Brett Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Council. Yes, Mr. Zale.
I move to concur with the promotion of Patrolman Smith to Sergeant.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, is there any objections? Here are no objections. Mayor, Council concurs with the promotion of Brett Smith to sergeant.
And that concludes the appointments, but a question came up during the meeting as to how does power come through the city and who has that power? If you noticed, I made appointments, but ultimate power comes through the city council, because if I could make appointments to anybody, but if at least 4 of them do not concur with it, it just does not happen. They have the final say and the final word. So you've seen an example of how some of our power is delegated in the city of Oregon. Okay, you can go back.
Yes, Mr. Reeves. Certainly, if you would like to call out and introduce some of the people that were hired.
Last one, Brett Smith is back there. You can,
Yep, I see him.
yeah. Oh,
So, in the corner stuff, Tyler,
Congratulations,
Jeff Ellis,
Jeff.
Craig Duncan, Rob Zupp.
Congratulations to all you guys.
hmm.
Now we're ready for, again, we'll get to the agenda. If those that want to exit, you can feel free to exit. We'll give you a couple minutes. If you're going to stay, we'll move on to the items that were discussed last week at the committee of the whole meeting. let's take a couple minutes. A couple members would like to speak to the gentleman that was just promoted. Thank you. We'll give it a couple minutes. Elizabeth, do you want this back? I have it at home. Okay.
He doesn't share well.
I have that in my collection of books that I have for my kids.
I don't read, so he can read it to me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but they say they don't know.
Who keeps adjusting my chair? I can't touch the floor. Come back. Come back on. About what? Smoothing it out. What do you tell them to do? Take money? Take the money?
It may have been a.
Okay. Okay, if we could all move to our seats so we could get started. Let's do it after the meeting. Okay, we're going to get started with the items that were spoken about last week and discussed at the meeting. First item for passage this evening is item number 68 of 2021. Councilors, are there further questions for the administration on item number 68 of 2021? Mayor, I was not here to speak last week. Is this a road that, I know it gets into the Dustin Road where it crosses over?
It is
Coy.
on
And I-
Warden,
Yep.
almost to Schmidlin.
I saw it here.
And the exact parcel on the south side of Warden Road has already been vacated. And so it is vacating the other side.
Okay.
And there is an easement the city still retains. It was petitioned and agreed to by the neighbors. And Mr. Roman was signed off on it, saying it's all right with the easement. And we're ready to rock and roll with it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Councilors, any further questions for the administration on item number 68 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I will assign item number 68 with ordinance number 68 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Declaring the intent of the city of Oregon to refer the petition from the abutting property owners to vacate the 280.56 feet of Jonathan Road, north of Warden Road and south of the southern right-of-way line of Dustin Road in the city of Oregon to the Plan Commission for their recommendation in declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 68 of 2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Second by Mr. Dabish. Again, that is a resolution, not an ordinance. I
I'm sorry,
apologize. That was
resolution.
me. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call for council on passage of resolution number 68 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Horniak,
Yes.
Mr. Dabish,
Yes.
Mrs. Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Reeves, Mr. Seaman,
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck,
Yes.
Mr. Zale,
Thank you, council. Please note that resolution number 68 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 69. Item number 69 of 2021. Council, is there any further questions for the administration on item number 69 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I'll sign item number 69 with ordinance number 69 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans. Yes. Mr. Zale.
I kind of thrown out a little bit about this last week, about the permission of the owner of the property versus the person that's running the business. That part of this troubles me somewhat. We did discuss it a little bit, and after thinking about it, it's like, I don't know how that works fairly for everyone.
I think it's more just so that the owner of the property knows what's happening on their property. So a leasee cannot just arbitrarily have something in just so the owner of the property is notified that something's going to be there.
Council President, maybe
Yes,
I can
Mr.
help
Gilmore.
out on this a little
I
bit.
did understand that part of it, but it's just, we're talking
Okay, so,
days a month.
so
There's
when,
not a lot going on the property.
yeah, so when we get to a property that has multiple tenants, okay, so if you have 5 tenants and each tenant would be allowed these rules instead of the property owner, you could have a food truck there a lot of times, where if it's limited to the property itself, it's,
Yeah, I do remember that.
okay.
I really do.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Thank you, Mr. Zale. Councilors, did we already get a motion and a second on this? No.
no, I need to read it.
All right. Ms. Evans, would you please read this into the record, please?
Amending sections of Chapter 1158 of Part 11 Planning and Zoning Code for outdoor storage, outdoor retail sales, and food trucks, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Counsel?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 69 of 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dabish. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 69 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance 69 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 70. Council, is there any further questions for the administration on item number 70 of 2021? Hearing no questions, I'll assign item number 70 with ordinance number 70 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Amending section 1155.08 tents and air-supported structures of Part 11 of the Planning and Zoning Code and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Counsel?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 70 of 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dabish. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 70 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 70 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 71. Council, is there any further questions for the administration on item number 71 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I'll assign item number 71 with ordinance number 71 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Accepting the bid of Moser Construction Incorporated, 122 South Wilson Avenue, Fremont, Ohio, for furnishing labor, materials, and equipment for the Oregon Town Center Phase 1, authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to enter into a contract with said contractor and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Counsel?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
I move for passage of ordinance 71 of 2021 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dabish. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 71 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Yes.
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 71 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Move to item number 72. Council, is there any further questions on item number 72 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I will sign item number 72 with ordinance number 72 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans.
Accepting the bids of Bowers Asphalt and Paving Incorporated, 6157 Walbridge Road, Walbridge, Ohio, for project number 1, alternate A, and project number 1, alternate B. Cocosing Construction Company, 1717531 Waterford Road, Fredericktown, Ohio, for project number 2. Henry W. Bergman Incorporated, 218 East 9th Street, Genoa, Ohio, for project number 3. Hillebrand and Sons Construction, 5811 Woodville Road, Northwood, Ohio, for project number 4 and project number 5. Smith Paving and Excavating Incorporated, 4426 North Old State Road, Norwalk, Ohio, for project number 6 and project number 7, for furnishing labor, material, and equipment for the 2021 roadway improvement program, authorizing the mayor, director of public service, and finance director to enter into a contract with said contractors and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Counsel.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Dabish.
I move for passage of ordinance number 72 of 2021 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Dabish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pollock. Ms. Evans, would you please take a roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 72 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 72 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Council, we have 2 items before us that were not presented last week, so we need to add them to this evening's agenda. Items number 73 and 74 of 2021. Can I get a motion, please?
So move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, items number 73 and 74 of 2021 are added to this evening's agenda. And we will start with item number 73, presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Building and Zoning Commissioner, Mr. James Gilmore. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President, and Council, do what just took action to accept the resignation of Alex Schultz. We were, we learned things when Alex was here and what we needed in a position, and trying to seek someone out that would fulfill all those needs. We think we're successful at finding someone and coming up with a title and a job classifications to cover this particular position in the city, is what this is. Mr. Gilmore can speak to some of the details of it, probably a little better than I. He worked a little closer with the development of this job classification.
Mr. Gilmore?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this is, as the mayor pointed out, a job classification to expand the current job classification of technology coordinator, and the additional qualification is residential plans examiner, which is needed in our department. So we expanded that job classification to include that. This individual will work approximately half-time as the technology coordinator, and the other half of the time he'll work in my office, assisting my office manager, and also doing residential plan review.
Beyond the plan review, will they be doing any inspection work?
We do not have plans for them to be a field inspector at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Council, is there any questions for the administration on item number 73 of 2021? Yes, Mr. Zale.
Well,
I don't know if these two gel together very well at all. Now, one of the questions I have is, this is an asking position, correct?
that's correct.
So they're allowed to bid into this and transfer if they have the qualifications?
That's right. It will be posted for 6 days if it's approved tonight. And if I might.
Mr. Gilmore.
Yes, we do residential plan review. Our individual building inspectors do that right now. But at times, they're overloaded with inspections outside. And this individual who we choose will be able to fill in and help out with that plan review service. Okay. And we don't need, in our position, we don't, in my department, we don't need a full-time person there, but at times, we need help.
I know I've heard from the administration that, in fact, we have somebody that was kind of blended into the technology part of this, that it seemed to be, saving money and doing well. But I've heard different from other city employees that actually a lot of things weren't getting done on time, technology-wise, computer-wise, distributing ink-wise, copy machines working properly. I have heard complaints about this, and
Right.
I found that to be somewhat as a full-time job as it was to begin with, but I'm okay with what we did. We partnered with another company to help that person out.
Right.
But that's my only concern. I look at both these duties, it just seems like a lot of work for one person to do on both sides. But like I said, I don't know about the planning.
Right. And
Mr. Gilmore?
yes, thank you. This person will really flex between the two departments. At times, we might need this person more, and then IT may at another time need more often. And we do partner with Perry for our technology services. And, we're still working through that. Maybe Perry will have to take a bigger role in the things they do for us. But it's a thing that we're still working through. And it was quite new with Alex, too.
Mr. Zale.
You post this for 6 days with Aspen.
Yes.
For their
Right.
At that same period of time, can people from outside the city of Oregon apply for that? Is that just strictly for Aspen for the first 6 days?
Well, we've received several applications already. They've heard that Alex was moving on. So, from the outside, right. But yes, we will do it according to, according to the union rules, post it for, and see if anybody qualifies. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Mr. Gilmore, thank you. Council, is there any further questions for the administration on item number 73?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
So just to clarify, because I'd have to echo Mr. Zale, the skill sets required in each of these are a little unusual to see meshed. So if I'm understanding correctly, Mr. Gilmore, the inspectors are reviewing the plans today.
That's right. They're qualified through their certification to do that. Yes.
Okay, so the person that we're looking for to fill this role would have to have what as credentials or qualifications to review plans?
The qualification would be residential plan.
So there is a certification they would have to achieve.
Absolutely, certified by the state. It'd be certified residential building official.
Okay, and as the information technology coordinator side of the role,
Yes.
what requirements, what background would you expect to see out of the individual? What requirements do you have for that?
Well, I'm not that person that could really answer that question because I wouldn't be in charge of that.
Mr.
person
Gilmore?
through that. Yes.
Would he have two bosses essentially?
Yes.
He would be in our diagram, he would 50% of the time he would be answering to you, 50% of the time he would be answering to
Mike Beasley.
Mike Beasley.
Okay, so this role would have two job roles and two bosses, two supervisors.
That's correct.
So which one takes priority?
Well, whoever is, whatever job he's doing at the time. I mean, if he's in my department doing a building inspection to work, he would answer to me. When he's outside my department doing IT work, he would answer to Mike Beasley.
Okay, so
Steve,
you
can I stop you for a
kind of,
minute?
hang on
Just-
if I can, Mayor.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that the inspectors are reviewing plans today. Your intention is that this person would only review plans on an overflow basis. Is that your intention moving forward if this position is created?
That's correct.
Okay, so this person would be a backup.
For that particular, but also he has other duties. For instance, when Lee is off, he would be able to fill in during that time she's on vacation. So we do need a backup there.
And that role is essentially what?
Taking in, I would say permit tech, taking in permits, doing logging in the permits and collecting the fees.
And is that included in this description as well?
Yes.
It is. Okay. So where physically will this person be housed once hired?
He will have two different locations.
So this individual is going to have two jobs, two bosses, and work from two different locations within
Right,
the
but
city.
they're right next door to each other. Okay, but the whole idea is to be flexible with this position and not to be rigid. And I get them, 4 hours every day, and IT gets them 4 hours every day. If he's needed in a certain area, we'll have to work that out between ourselves.
But isn't it fair to assume, Mr. Gilmore, and this is just
Okay.
human nature, you're both going to need this person.
Well,
So IT has some type of issue and you're overwhelmed with plan review and you need them to review plans, them, I say, to review plans. IT needs to get them
Right.
because the network's not working. Which is the bigger priority? What do they work on?
I would say the
Mr. Mayor,
network would be the.
That's what I was going to address, if you would let me. Precedent would take place, emergencies would deem where that individual would go. So the IT department has a problem. Remember, it is the facilitator through our subcontractor, Perry, who does the work. So the inside facilitator, they would leave Mr. Gilmore's department and address emergencies and then go back when those emergencies are done. Alex does a similar thing right now. You know, we are working through, we learned things when we created this new way of doing business in our IT department. And it was working. We were still refining it, and we would still have to refine it. But we found, even though there were some glitches in it, as Mr. Zale said, we found most departments were very much more at ease now than they were prior to this new way of doing business in the IT department.
You're talking about with a blended position as being
Correct.
recommended today.
Correct. Remember, as a facilitator with having a outside contractor doing bulk work, but there had to be someone inside to handle the day-to-day needs as they existed. It was working. I think most departments, you talk to the departments that are here, they'll tell you that it was working, and it was working better all the time the longer we were using it. So we believed, and we will have another position. It won't be split like this, but in Darlene's department, the finance department, when she took over as finance director over tax and finance department, we knew that one of the positions that wasn't filled yet would have to be shaped by the new roles. And as she told me today, she's got that shaping up. So we would be hiring a individual that would fill what our current needs would be for that department. And we didn't know it at first because we were doing business differently there. And she tells me she's got a pretty good handle on job description now, and we'll be coming forward with that in the not so distant future. Because if we don't, she might jump off the bridge. She gets
Okay,
or
let's try
jump off
to,
the-
let's try to focus on this one
Yeah.
here today.
But
Yeah,
I'm just saying
let's hope
that
not.
that is, we were trying to do the role of IT better than we were doing it in the past. Because so many things change, and with a company, they are updated on all kind of things, versus if you are one person to do that, it's almost impossible to achieve all those abilities.
Mm.
So we were a work in progress, and we learned things through with Alex, and we hope to continue to learn things and just keep doing it better and better.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. President,
Mr. Horniak.
I would continue just to question the blending of that and how that's going to work together. And the other part of it is, quite frankly, from my aspect, I would like to know what the qualifications for an information technology coordinator are going to be before I say, let's blend two positions together. Because to me, these don't feel very related unless there's an individual that I know that fills this. If I wrote it for someone, then this makes sense. I'm in the building industry. Most people I know in the building industry are not in the technology industry. In the building industry, IRC updates every 3 years with a 1-year transitional period, correct? Am I remembering that correct, Mr. Gilmore?
I'm sorry.
International Residential Code updates every 3 years with a 12-month hiatus to the update
You need 30 hours every 3 years for recertification.
for certification. But the standards and building code update is every 3 years with a 1-year break-in period, correct? If I remember that correctly?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And technology changes how frequently comparatively? Daily?
Well, I would guess all the time.
I would think that the updates of information, security threats, knowing the attempts of phishing attacks, everything else that's out there that day, I would believe that to be a more consuming role in this. And that I would argue that both sets of qualifications are equally important. And typically someone who has kind of geared themselves into an information technology kind of career path is usually not the same person that gears himself towards a building trades or a building professional background.
Now, can I ask the administration now?
We found people that are.
And
So we've
The-
already had applicants prior to this. I'm sorry to catch up, Mr. President. Is that
No.
what I'm hearing?
my question would be,
Yes. We
We
were
have.
looking at, we're just always looking, just try to find, we got roles that are out there and we need somebody to fill them. So yeah, we're always looking, but we know that our process can still allow someone to bid in it. But there
When-
are people,
when we changed our information technology, we went to an outsourcing of a lot of that function, correct?
that's correct.
And so a lot of that, that software and ransomware and the different
But
things that
Steve's
could
got
get
a
on-
good point.
Oh, I
about that.
agree.
And if
But-
it turned out that could evolve into one person, that person doing just one of the jobs. If the demand was there, if it wasn't working, we would find a way to make it work. We believed it was a work in progress, this position.
Mr. President.
Mr. Gilmore.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of times the IT is a lot more demanding. But from time to time, we need some help, and if there, that we could use it, and that we just want the flexibility to be able to have somebody come in our department. Because we have one office staff, okay? And it's a problem when, for instance, they're on sick leave or if they're on vacation. It takes a lot of, actually, a lot of the same skills because of entering the data, knowing how the system works, our programming works. So that's why we blended it together. We just need the option to be able to use them on our department.
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Roman.
If you,
Mr. Zale, go ahead, Mr. Zale, I'm sorry.
do we ever have interns that we use in a position like the building and zoning?
Mr. Gilmore?
We have not. The problem with interns is it takes a lot to learn our system. And if there's a changeover, we're repeating the training over and over and over again. It'd be nice to settle down to a person that knows the system, able to fill in when we need them.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that would be a sought after, real sought after position.
Internship, yeah.
Internship for somebody. That's just what I'm thinking, but sometimes I think maybe that's the best way to go, but just my thoughts. Second question is though, am I getting ahead of myself by asking how much do we think we're going to pay this person annually?
No, you're not getting ahead of yourself.
No, I don't.
No, I have that. It's a seven-step program. It would start at $66,996.80, and the seventh step is $79,185.60.
Mr. Roman.
And Mr. President, if I could just give my opinion, I don't think it's uncommon to have an individual that is both IT or as part of a planning department or engineering department. A lot of what we do is very much data oriented. It just depends on the department, but it's a lot of software. And I just know that a lot of IT professionals are also in some planning department. And I think Alex was just beginning to learn Perry ProTech. And I think there's certainly, and just going through that process, to me, I like the idea. I think, there were certain individuals in the planning department at one time, Paul Buer, certainly knew computers very well. And keep in mind, building and zoning is paperless. I mean, it's run very well, but it's a lot of data. And Lee is very bright and runs that, but it's that one individual. I think they do need a second as a backup. Lee does a great job. But, you may need a backup. And I think, again, with Perry ProTech's involvement, I think this is actually a very good blend for this position. So,
Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Mr. President.
Mr. Reeves.
The only question I have is, Mr. Zale said that this was going to be an ASME position, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. If our ASME people apply for it, will they get first shot at the interviews and that over and outside in? I know in like in
More
what we
than
do
that.
in my profession of athletics, we have A, B, and C candidates. A are teachers that are in our system, and then B are teachers, other employees, and C are outside entities. We have to go through our A candidates first, and if we don't get a good enough candidate there, then they can move on to the B. Right. Is that how we're going to do that as well? Well, Melissa, you might want to help me with this, but my understanding is that once it's posted, we would interview anybody that's qualified at that time. Okay. Either inside or out. Well, we would
Inside
do the
first.
inside first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
We have to go
Inside.
inside
Yeah,
first. The posting is only to internal employees.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just talking about, I think if our ASME people apply for it, they should have first dibs at it.
That's what he said. Yeah, if they meet the minimum qualifications, they would.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Council, is there any further questions to the administration on item number 73 of 2021? Hearing no further questions, I'll sign item number 73 with ordinance number 73 of 2021 and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
Amending the classification plan of the city of Oregon as approved by ordinance 69 to 2019, as amended by creating the classification of information technology coordinator, residential plans examiner in the classified service, establishing a pay range for this position and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Council.
Mr. President,
Mr. Seaman?
yes, I'd like to move for passage of item 73 of 2021 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dabish. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 73 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Dabish?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
No.
Mrs. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack?
No.
Mr. Zale?
No.
Council, ordinance number 73 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 4 yeas, 3 nays. Move to item number 74. Item number 74 was presented by Mayor Michael J. Safarian and Public Service Director Mr. Paul Roman. Mayor, Mr. Roman?
No, Mr. Rowe.
Mr. Roman?
Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is needed to proceed with the bidding and advertisement of the Cedar Point Development Parkway Road Infrastructure Improvement Project. If council recalls, we did receive a federal EDA grant for this project, 2.7 million. And we actually received another grant from the Ohio Department of Development, $750,000 for this project. Part of the EDA requirements is that before you can even advertise the project, you have to have a contract for construction management. So if you recall, Pokemeyer Design Group was hired as the designer. And at the time we did the bid or the design contract, we didn't award the construction management because normally I hold off on doing that until you award the construction end of it. But with the EDA grant, it actually says you have to have the construction management in contract before you actually advertise for bids. So that's what this is. So I had taken their work from a previous exhibit and a past ordinance and brought that to light as to what the construction management is, the scope of services, its inspection, its record drawings, and then grant administration. And then they provided tonight on your table just an updated letter describing those services and a cost breakdown. So, so we just need to award that before we can actually advertise the project. So be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Is there any questions for the administration on item number 74 of 2021?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Seaman.
so what portion is the city's portion of this total project roughly?
Yeah, yeah, Mr. President, Mr. Seaman, well, you know, our grant funding almost seems to be more than the cost of the project, but and I think it'll become very close to almost have no cost in this. But we do have some alternative bids. We have water line replacements, and it just depends on where the bids come in at. So it's possible. You gotta remember these grants are a maximum limit. So it's possible if the bids come in higher, we would have more of a local match then. Okay.
So that's good
Oh, yeah.
news, basically.
That's
Very
great
good.
news.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Thank you, Mr. Roman. Is there any further questions for the administration on item number 74 of 2021? Here, no further questions. I'll sign item number 74 with ordinance number 74 of 2021. And ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record. Ms. Evans?
Authorizing the mayor, finance director, and director of public service to enter into an agreement with Pugmire Design Group Incorporated, 1168 North Main Street, Bowling Green, Ohio, to provide professional engineering, construction inspection, and project administration services during the construction phase for the Cedar Point Development Parkway Road infrastructure improvements in an amount not to exceed $168,915 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Counsel.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passage of ordinance number 74 of 2021 as an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Paulo. Ms. Evans, would you please take roll call of council on passage of ordinance number 74 of 2021 as an emergency measure?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pavlov?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Wallenzeck?
Yes.
Mr. Zale?
Thank you, council. Please note that ordinance number 74 of 2021 did pass by a vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. That ends the items for consideration and passage this evening. We do have a new liquor permit before us today. This liquor permit would be for BJS Hideaway Steakhouse LLC, doing business as BJ's Hideaway Steakhouse, located at 506 South Lollendorf, Oregon, Ohio, 43616. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Horniak.
if I may, I just have a couple of questions, having looked through this. Are they still under the provision of the SUE to open as a restaurant there? That seems like it was quite some time ago, and that has expired since, based on memory.
Mayor?
Once you get a zoning change and you have, if operate under 2 years, it disappears. However, in the COVID deal, the state of Ohio granted us the ability to extend that through the time for businesses. So we take out that time and he still falls in under the 2-year allotment. So
Do you recall when that
Well-
SUE approval was made?
one thing that's unique about this project is even though he went through the process to get the SUE, he would have actually been grandfathered in with that property because it was operating as a restaurant prior to the city even incorporating as a city. So under our rules, we couldn't keep them from opening it as a restaurant because of their grandfather clause of ability to do business. We
With
found that
that-
out after we got in the middle of the project, in the process.
Doesn't that attach to the owner of the property as opposed, or is it just the property? So once it's
property, it
something,
goes with
it's
the property.
something forever,
Goes with the property.
unless it goes through being changed through the planning commission and through the city.
Correct, but if one is the same usage, it would have still held that grandfather, it would have held that same usage through the grandfather clause.
Can we force the stipulations that we put in the SUE?
He agreed to it.
Okay.
He agreed to it, knowing that it was more, he agreed to it at the time because he was trying to work with the neighbors, because he still wanted to be a good neighbor. So in essence, maybe not. If push come to shove, we may, it would have been Melissa does a good job. She would have defended our position, but she would say that to actually, if he didn't agree to them, knowing all the situation, we could have had a hard time.
But moving forward at this point in time, he has agreed to accept the provisions that were established.
Yes.
Is he planning on opening the restaurant now?
That is what he said. Yes,
Okay.
it's not open yet, but I'm saying yes, that he did
Okay.
plan.
He didn't give any time frame of when he anticipates, because I thought that would have been about 2 years ago.
I wouldn't have taken that because I'd have said, I don't know when it's open, when the doors are open.
Okay.
People are, but I believe that really did mean to open the place.
Okay, thank you.
Was there a previous liquor license approved or permitted there as the DBA as listed here? Was there a previous liquor license on this property, attached to this property?
There was one even
current
stored
business?
there for a while. I think a liquor license was there, stored, sold. Another one was purchased. I don't know exactly what the chain of events that had
Okay, so
happened.
a
with-
liquor license was previous, right?
Yeah,
Come on, we all ate at the restaurant. We know
sure.
they had a
Sure,
bar.
they had it. I don't know if it at one time the liquor license was sold, repurchased.
Well,
whether
that
it
was my
kept-
question, is
kept
whether
in
we know if it
storage
was
in the.
purchased, whether it was lost, whether it, I don't know, is there
I didn't.
expiration on it if non-renewed?
I actually don't. I don't know that. All I know is the one that is here is a legitimate liquor license. It was permitted, and that's an area where you can't just take one from the city and place it and house it there. That's a precinct liquor license deal. That's what happened in the city years ago, where some areas you have to get a liquor license in that precinct, and another one would not be transferable. So I do know that is the case there, and they have one that works to house there now. That's all I know, that it's a legitimate liquor license that is acceptable in that precinct.
So as part of our review, we would not have inquired what the previous liquor license was or what was the reason for its
Right.
termination?
Yeah,
We would have.
the police
So-
department would have done that. Wouldn't they? Right.
The property currently already has a D2 and a D3. This was just asking for the D5.
Oh, all right. So so once they have the liquor license, they can add on to it.
So they're
Correct.
expanding it. And a D5 is what?
Thank you.
230 license.
As a resident.
Yes, sir.
So the D5 gives them for the beer, wine, and mixed beverages on the premises and off the premises, in original sealed containers until 2:30 a.m. Just extends their time from, obviously the D3 is until 1 a.m. and the D5 is just going into 2:30 a.m.
Okay, but the 1 and 2 allows them for consumption on premise as well as carry out?
Correct. Until 1 a.m.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak.
President?
Yes, Mr. Seaman.
Now, so is this considered a restaurant that serves alcohol, or is this considered a tavern that has food?
Restaurant, that was discussed in the
That
planning
was discussed.
commission. Restaurant that serves alcohol.
Okay. Now, Mayor, we had some go-arounds years back with a couple of neighbors there, but, and I know you worked on that a lot.
They were here at
How do you anticipate this working out? I mean,
the residents were here at the planning commission at the day. They were the ones that had requested, had some problems before. They put the curb stops and what was the other? Yeah, the dumpster location.
Yeah.
but it was like they had
And they-
motorcycle night, and that was.
Yeah, he said he was not going to have anything like that.
Okay.
All right. Now, once again, even the neighbors understood that it was an ask. There was no demand that we could put on that business due to the nature of how they could actually get the right to do business there just from the grandfather clause. So they knew all that.
Yeah.
And so they asked rather nicely for reasonable request, and he said, okay.
So we
Yeah.
got a word, but which can mean a lot. I mean, we just hope it follows through. It's not too boisterous or too loud or whatever.
It seemed earnest at the
Okay.
time.
Okay, very good. Is that BJ? Is that who's gonna?
BJ Lawson was the person who was the applicant.
Okay.
Mr. Zale.
Mr. Mayor, I recall this hearing we had with him and some of the parameters, but didn't he agree to close at a certain time also? Wasn't that one of the neighbors' concerns about it being open until 2:30? I thought he had agreed to something like 1 a.m.
It's easy to find that in the minutes of the meeting.
That just
Yeah.
sounds familiar to me, that some of the neighbors' complaints were and he didn't have an issue with that whatsoever, as I recall.
You are correct.
I guess.
I think that was
You
more,
are correct.
I remember him specifically said he would not have a bike night, but there was a time thing that he
Okay.
said he didn't expect to be there
That's probably.
near that time. But, and I'll go back to Chief Spangler, is besides for the 230 license, does the D5 do any other thing?
So it allows for the beverages to be on or off the premises in an original sealed container. So if you bought it to go, you could take it with you. If they chose to cater somewhere that they could take their beer, liquor, or wine with it, this just allows it. He currently already can do it until 1 a.m. This just allows him until 2:30 a.m. based on the D5.
Mr. President.
Mr. Horniak.
Mr. Zale, my recollection of that discussion is very similar to yours, that there was some time constraints that were discussed, and I remember the residents from the area sharing support to see the restaurant reopening based on the restaurant. I remember a dialogue, and I can't remember if anything in specific was called out, but I recall a dialogue about percentage of food sales versus beverage sales as part of that to establish it is a restaurant with a bar, not a bar that serves food. And I think as the former, the surrounding folks that came to that hearing that evening supported it. As the latter, they did not. Meaning a bar that served food, because that was some of their contention with some of the previous organizations that had been there. So if his intention is not to be open later, why do you need a liquor license to 2:30 unless your intention has changed in how you're going to operate that property?
Right, and my only concern about this is legally, I don't think what we're talking about right now is a reason to deny him or have a hearing with the liquor control, because what we're talking about here is things that he agreed with.
And would be up to us to enforce what we believe our parameters are.
In fact, if what you were saying is true, and it is, I do recall that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think he agreed to a time frame that he would stay open to only. But I don't, that's an agreement with us in our zoning. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a reason to deny or request a hearing with liquor control or not.
Mr. President,
Ms. Purpura.
thank you. I would agree with you, Mr. Zale. This is not the mechanism to enforce any agreement that he had with the city. If there's something that we're looking as far as what his agreement was with the city, that would be through the city, not through liquor control. I would agree with you.
Thank you, Mr. Zale. Thank you, Ms. Purpura. So at this point, it would be us to police and control anything that happens there, but it sounds like we're in not a position to deny this. Am I correct? Or to seek a hearing?
Hearing.
Okay. Mr. Zale?
I suggest that we instruct our clerk to not request.
Thank you, Mr. Zale.
Second.
Second by Ms. Powell. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, we will instruct the clerk to check that we will not seek a hearing or request a hearing for this liquor permit. We'll move to the mayor's report. Mayor.
I spoke enough.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Purpura. Mr. Roman.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Zale. Thank you, Mr. Zale. Mr. Seaman.
No report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Davish.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Polliff.
No report, Mr.
Thank you, Ms.
President.
Polliff. Mr. Horniak.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. And I have no report from my standing committee, so I'll seek a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Reeves. Council, any objections? Hearing no objections, meeting is adjourned.